Hello, this is Pastor Rick, and I want to welcome you to the Sunday Forum for this Sunday, June the 18th. This is a Sunday Forum, but we're calling it all summer a special summer table talk edition, referring to Martin Luther's table talks where they gather around in his home around the table and discuss theology and moral issues, and that's what we're going to do this summer, so that we, of course, can't talk about the issues here at church, but we can talk together about these issues around our tables at home. That's the idea. And I want to entitle this first summer table talk, Golf in the Kingdom of God. Golf in the Kingdom of God. Now, whether you play golf or not, golf is an important topic in Naples. We have some of the best courses in the world. But particularly now we want to talk about an issue that has arisen, which is discussed in all the clubs and in many homes. And that is the merger or the cooperation between the PGA, which is the prominent organization organizing golf in the United States, and LIV, the Saudi-backed new upstart golf league. Now, whether you play golf or not, this has become a morally fraught tale between here the PGA, which claims to have moral integrity, not wanting to work with the Saudis because of their civil rights and human rights abuses, and we're going to say more about that later. And then the Saudis who come in with this LIV League, and they're willing to invest billions of dollars. And so at first the PGA stood for moral integrity, but then there was all that money sloshing around, and they decided, well, they wanted some of it, which has then created a huge conflict between the golfers, with many people looking in and saying that is just pragmatism. Where's your moral integrity? You're all hypocrites. But others saying, come on, let's forgive the Saudis. Isn't that also a Christian position in the kingdom? And let's move on to make golf more profitable and more successful. Okay, so that's sort of a summary, but we want to go back and again review this fraught moral tale, not just whether you're interested in the PGA or LIV Golf, but also how it reflects on our own moral and character. How do we make moral decisions? How would you define in your life moral integrity? So let me go first of all to the New York Times and just describe a little bit the PGA and this new LIV League supported by the Saudis. The PGA, for many who you know this quite well, but for others maybe not, the PGA Tour holds tournaments nearly every weekend, mostly in the United States, but also in other countries in North America, Europe, and Asia, with prize pools worth millions of dollars. The tour has been the home to practically every male golfer you can name: Jack Nicholson, Tiger Woods, Arnold Palmer, and so on. And it has relationships with, but is separate from the organization that staged men's golf majors: the Masters, the PGA Championship, the US Open, the British Open, and the women's golf, LPGA, which runs the women's tour, is separate. LIV Golf, which you're going to hear about now, began in just 2021. With the former PGA Tour player Greg Norman as its commissioner and billions of dollars in backing from the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is known as the Public Investment Fund. LIV then lured several PGA Tour players, including the major champions Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka, with massive purses and guaranteed payouts that far surpassed what they could earn on the established circuit. And so LIV promised to make a sharp break with golf's traditionalism, you could say, starting with its name, which when pronounced rhymes with give. We call it LIV, but it's actually the Roman numeral for 54, the number of holes played in each tournament. LIV had music blaring at its events, looser dress codes, and team competitions and tournaments that lasted 3 days instead of 4. Okay, so what's the relationship between these two leagues, the PGA and LIV, since 2021? Well, to put it bluntly, it's acrimonious. They hate each other. And so those players that moved over to LIV to play in that league then were ostracized by the PGA. There were fights back and forth. Many considered that what LIV was doing, what the Saudis were doing through golf, but also through other sports, was to garnish their reputation, to elevate themselves on the worldwide stage, to market themselves better, given they've had certain civil rights abuses. We think about, up until recently, women could not drive in Saudi Arabia, but in particular, the murder of the Washington Post writer Khashoggi, Jamal Khashoggi, in Turkey was considered to be so egregious a civil rights case, a human rights case, that people said we can't work with the Saudis. In fact, wasn't it the Saudis who promoted those who brought down the Twin Towers at 9/11 in New York? And so the families of the 9/11, those who lost loved ones in 9/11, and the golfers themselves and many others say, this is just morally unacceptable to work with the Saudis at this level. On the other side of the moral dilemma, others are saying, well, why don't we just forgive them? They are making advancements. Women are now driving, and there's so many other advancements in Saudi life. And when they improve their human rights record, it spreads throughout the Middle East. So forgive and move on. Others, like Jay Moynihan from the PGA, say there's just too much money. There's just too much money involved. Therefore, we've got to work together in this league. We can't just be fighting all the time. And so now that's the question. And it's a question not just for the PGA, but it's a question for us as well. When there are moral issues, and Jay Moynihan says, I know people are going to call me a hypocrite because I made a moral stand last year and now I'm giving in to the money. Is that right? Is that pragmatic? Is that practicing forgiveness? Or is it abandoning a moral position? Again, it's not just a question for the PGA at this time. It's one that we all wrestle with. And here the Bible gives us some instruction. James to his disciples, therefore he says, if you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust handling true riches? That's in Luke chapter 16. Or in Job, God says Job was blameless. He had moral integrity, which is what makes the tragedy of Job all the more pronounced. In Proverbs 11, the integrity of the righteous will guide them, but the perversity of the unfaithful will destroy them. In Psalms, let integrity and uprightness preserve me, David says, for I wait on you. Over and over again, the Bible talks about moral integrity. And so that's what we want to talk about in our homes now, using this cooperation between the PGA and the LIV Saudi Upstart League. What does it mean for them? But more importantly, what does moral integrity mean for us? So that's why we want to talk about golf in the kingdom of God. Enjoy your conversations, and thanks for joining us on the Sunday Forum. Bye-bye now.